What's happening? We are back to break down episode number 7 of Lalomanu Beach, joined as always with my co-host McKenna and the guy who breaks down all the episodes, Mr. Robbie. How are you doing, Robbie?
I'm doing good. And you know what? After we got through the last episode and we saw how Jackie tried to make a move and, the Girls Alliance was a potential move for a few folks. It didn't work. And coming into this episode, I'm really curious. That's what I was really wanting to answer was, how is Jackie going to get out of this? How is Jackie going to show that I didn't follow the rest of my alliance? I did what I wanted and it didn't work. And it's kind of like when you flip, but you did it at the wrong time and you didn't have the numbers. And speaking of that vote, I mentioned this a little bit in the last recap. I think Morgan and Brittley, in my opinion, really should have gone with that Girls Alliance, because that vote was just to vote out a guy from the other tribe. It wasn't like the Girls Alliance was to flip on their own tribe. It was just vote Kyle instead of Nikki.
Morgan never really got the information.
Yeah.
And she would have 100% done that. Brittley was a big person of, I don't want to do an all girls alliance. So
that might be one of the reasons why Morgan didn't get the information, right? Because you have Serena and Nikki are really relying on Jackie and Brittley to inform Morgan, right? And if Brittley's not having it and Jackie's already reaching out to a lot of people, then maybe that's kind of where it died off was, if people aren't in it, then the message doesn't get passed. But, we see Shea start the episode off here with a quick confessional saying that he's, it was a scary vote. Something went a little wonky and that he kind of wants to get to the bottom of it. And that he convinced Kyle in the last moment to vote Nikki. And if he hadn't have done that, then we could have potentially had a tie in that episode, because at one point Shea and Greg were trying to tell Kyle, dude, just tell me who you're going to vote for. And then we'll just know that's your vote and we can trust you. Vote for a random person. We don't need your number. And then last second, Shea says he went to Kyle and said, you know what, just to be safe, vote for Nikki. And, for Shea, that's a good thing he did, because that would have been scary.
Yeah, exactly. He would have had a spot on that wheel.
Yeah, exactly. And you see
the dreaded wheel.
You see Brittley right after that mention that now's the time she's going to start planning long-term game. And I find that a little ironic, because the previous episode, in my opinion, like I just said, but I'm just one person and it's easy for me to say that because they're not here to defend themselves. So I'll take my shots when I can, but
we'll be asking her about it.
Brittley and Morgan, I think if Morgan would have known more information about that, I think Morgan could have maybe then convinced Brittley, this might be a good move and a great option for us moving forward. So
and I think they could have crushed it. I think.
Yeah. I think Morgan could have really delivered with that. But the fact that they didn't have that conversation, that's kind of, once someone's against it and you don't have the numbers, then it's not going to work.
Yeah. And you see Brittley pretty much just tell the guys right away, yeah, they want a Girls Alliance, so I'm not doing it. In the previous episode. So that, it is what it is. I love the woulda, coulda, shouldas. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened there. But we roll into the immunity challenge in this episode, and it is perfectly named, Your Friends Are Numbered. And
I named these challenges.
I loved it because the way it works is the wheel gets spun, everybody's name is on there, and whoever's name gets picked has to pick their partner. And there's going to be 4 pairs of 2. And the first person that gets picked is Greg, and Greg wastes no time in picking Shea. And then you get Brittley gets picked second, and almost instantaneously says Morgan with zero hum and ha, nothing, just Morgan. Perfect. And then you get Anthony, gets next, and he grabs Kyle, and that leaves Serena and Jackie unpicked by anybody, and kind of just forced into a duo, which is really interesting because now you've got people from the opposite tribe, even though it's a merge, forced to work together, right? Which sometimes can make stuff happen.
And he's wanting to work with Serena, and they kind of have that relationship. So it was like, I didn't have to make that step out of Casilla to pick a Tapua. So they kind of
and
happy.
I want to know behind the scenes though, because so they go into the breakout rooms with whoever their production person is so we can further explain the challenge. And I had Serena and Jackie in my breakout room with me. And instantaneously they looked at me and were like, okay, can we strategize here? So they really didn't even care what the challenge was. They immediately wanted to strategize and just talk about that. And they talked about the placement for what they wanted to do in the challenge for maybe a minute or two.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm glad you brought it up. I wasn't going to, but I am aware that conversation took place. Yeah, it was one of those things that, you know, I was hoping would make it into the episode, because after we watched it, Serena had mentioned, well, what you don't really see there is that I didn't care about the challenge at all, because Serena didn't have a lot of experience in doing a lot of those challenges. So she pretty much just, you know, said like, let's just strategize. And my understanding is that she wasn't afraid of innocently emphasizing how bad it was to not get picked and how it was awkward or whatever, something along those lines. And you know, Jackie already showed, like you said, she voted with Serena in the last episode. So shows that
Brittley, I had them, and they also wasted no time to strategize. They got who was doing what first, and then after people were still talking or whatever to decide what they wanted to do, they were strategizing as well. So I'm pretty sure it's the same with all the other breakout rooms.
Well, exactly. And we see that because like, let's just, you know, jump through a little bit here. So they have to do a bunch of, you know, card pulls to stack cups and pencil bounces and whatnot. And it's a relay race, you know, through challenges kind of deal. And Greg and Shea pull out the victory there. Mm-hmm. And right after they win, you see Shea give a confessional saying that he really enjoyed having the prep time for the challenge, just like we're saying, because he had an opportunity to sit with Greg and kind of build that, you know, reassurance. Because at this point in the game, everybody's jumping in and out of scramble rooms together, right? During the pre-tribal scramble section, you know, people are always listening. There's always somebody else there. And he loved that he had that time. And something that I thought, like, my mind was racing watching this episode, because I saw Serena jump into a room and she said, as Jackie pulled in, okay, I'm going to leave so nobody's suspicious. I'm thinking, you should be working right now. But then she finishes her sentence by saying, Jackie will fill you in, and then left. And that just shows what you're saying, Lauren, that when they had a chance to sit and strategize together, they were obviously planning ahead. And Serena trusted Jackie enough to leave and have Jackie pass the message on of her intent to still work with the girls and to try to get one of the guys out. And to Jackie's credit, she did. Now she did it. It was a soft offer. It was kind of like, yeah, Serena kind of wants to do the girls thing still, just to kind of feel the room. Morgan kind of laughed it off. Like, no, it's not going to happen at this point. Yeah. You know, and then you see Jackie make a really interesting kind of risky move and throws out the names of Greg and Shea. Mm-hmm. Really early in that scramble round, of saying, like, not obviously they can't get voted out this round, but saying moving forward, like, are you sure you don't want to think of a group of people we could work with to get them out later, or are we going to go to the end with these guys? And that's a risky thing to do,
especially right? With Morgan right there, because Morgan was so in with Shea, but she's also really in with Jackie too. So I guess, which one do you pick? And then I guess she didn't really think that offer of Shea or Greg stuck. So
well, exactly. And
Shea.
Yeah, and Brittley's there, and Brittley obviously didn't vote with, you know, the quote unquote Girls Alliance from the previous episode. So you can't trust that Brittley's not going to run around and say what you're talking about. And Brittley did run to Greg and Shea in the previous episode and say exactly what Jackie was saying about, you know, what folks were talking about when it comes to the Girls Alliance. So it was a really risky move to do that when there's three people, including yourself, in the room, and not a one-on-one with Morgan or with Brittley or whoever. So
you have to look at Brittley's position too, because if you're looking back, she was originally somewhat on the bottom of her tribe, and she was able to work her way up to then integrate herself with amongst, you know, the Morgan, the Jackie, Shea, and Greg a little bit. But she's in a great position because she's someone that maybe you could have potentially flip-flopped a little bit, because they had more allegiance to each other before they brought her in. And then she was able to, because of her social skills, get in good with people on her tribe. So then she had options for herself, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. I think from Brittley's perspective, she was on the out and she just worked over the last couple hours to get in. Mm-hmm. So why the hell would I just do all that work to get out again.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I think you're bang on with that. And Brittley mentions a few times in the episode she wants to target Anthony, and we get an answer to the question that I had coming into the episode of how the hell was Jackie gonna get out of this? I voted my own way with a girls' alliance that doesn't exist.
Just flat out says she does. She was the
just
one
straight up. Oh yeah, I was confused. I didn't hear the name, and not only that, Morgan. I feel like it was unintentional, but before Jackie even got there, Morgan gave her the benefit of the doubt to the guys and said, yeah, I think it was Jackie. I just don't think she got the name from us or something like that. Right. Mm-hmm. And Morgan was almost giving Jackie the protection before she even got in the room.
Yeah.
Which is great for Jackie. Right. Oh. A lot of people would have been like, I don't know what the hell is up with Jackie's vote, just to kind of throw some shade just in case the vote goes a little wonky. Yep. But you know what? Yeah. So it was like nothing happened. I thought she was going to be SOL, but it's
nope.
Nope.
No, she wasn't. In a mini, though, it's easier to say, oh, I was confused, because you really barely have any time to talk to people. So if you're in one room, you can hear a name, go to a different room, it's a different name. And you're like, last minute, I have no idea what to do. And so it's an easy sell on her end. That's the difference between a mini and a long game. In a long game, that would not work.
Yeah. And you see in this episode at one point, you have Morgan mentioning that she wants to bring Jackie to the final two if she can. And, Shea, if Morgan has to bring a third, then Shea's the person that she wouldn't mind sitting there, but doesn't necessarily want that to happen. So even in Morgan's mind, she knows that Shea's got to go and Greg's got to go at some point. And even Brittley wasn't part of that. Yep. But not yet. Right. Not yet. And you see throughout the rest of the scramble round, amazing play by Jackie of just recon, I guess, just hopping into rooms. Where are we voting? You want to vote Anthony? Sounds good. Where are we voting? And Greg jumps in at one point and says, the vote's Serena. I already talked to Shea. Shea's good, even though he obviously didn't. So I guess it's a little bit of a spoiler, a little bit on that one, but he didn't talk to Shea about that. No. And that was Greg's attempt to make a big power move. Right. And like you just mentioned, Lauren, in these games, a lot of times that's all it takes. Right. There's not a lot of time to get the name to everybody.
Yeah. It was like,
we saw that
just before tribal council was Greg going, yeah, so Serena. And then what?
Yeah, exactly. And so he wants Serena to go. He says that she's asking, too many questions and kind of sliding through with not being caught asking the questions that she's asking, and has had enough of it. He's kind of onto her game a little bit of picking up on the innocent me kind of style. And yeah. And then what you see, like I said, with Jackie, with the recon, is she doesn't leave until she has Morgan. And you can tell you guys are saying like, get your ass to the freaking tribal council here.
Oh, I was
What
pissed.
Are you doing?
I was like, get out of here. Like, and you could see it in Morgan's face when she's leaving the room. She's like, I'm not happy.
It's barely audible, but she just goes, oh, fudge. And then
that was it. Fudge. This is just the fudge. And you know what? But once again, Jackie reaffirmed we're voting Serena, right? Like, that's not the words she used, but that was the idea. And okay, so now she knows where Morgan's voting. She knows where Greg's voting. She knows where the other folks are voting, most likely. The only one that was kind of a gray area was Brittley, because Brittley was there when Greg was there. But Brittley didn't seem convinced at that point. Yeah. But how would Jackie have known that? Right. So still a little bit of a gamble if she wanted to get creative with the vote. And honestly, I think if Jackie was 50-50 on making a move at this point, tribal council pushed her over the edge, because the first person to answer a question is Greg. And when we get to tribal, you guys ask Greg, why'd you pick Shea? And he gives one of the worst answers you can ever give, ever. Pretty much just saying, I want to pick Shea because I want to be aligned with him forever. And he's my final two, and I trust him more than anybody else. And we think alike, and I want him to win if I don't win. And he's my best friend in the whole universe. Obviously I'm paraphrasing, but it wasn't great. Like he just straight up outed himself as really strongly wanting to work with Shea.
Well, I think also the way that they picked people for the challenge was so revealing too, how it was so instantaneous.
Exactly.
Greg was like Shea, and Brittley was Morgan. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go.
Even faster than how Greg said Shea, Morgan.
Oh yeah. Brittley was instant, right?
Even if I knew I was picking Morgan, I still would have been like,
oh man. Yeah, exactly. Like
you're making me pick between all these people. Great. Like, all right, here's the social game. Morgan, like.
Yeah, exactly. Or even put a target on the person you're picking and be like, oh, who's one more? Morgan's done great. I'll pick Morgan. Like something dorky like that, right? But you see Greg put a target on his back, and then Serena innocently again, when she gets asked, what do you think of how the draw went? She throws out right away, well, you know what? It kind of shows you, who's tightest in the alliance, I guess, and who's tightest over there. Pause. Or just who does good in challenges. I don't know. It just felt awkward. But once again, throws out hierarchy, right? There's clearly a hierarchy. Brittley gives a pretty safe answer saying, I feel good with Morgan. She didn't say I could have picked either of them. It was just a 50-50. Like, she didn't throw a bone to Jackie at all, but I feel good with Morgan. We kind of work the same way. We're on the same strategy line, something like that. And Jackie eventually gets asked about it a little bit, and she's kind of like a meh. Like, it wasn't great, but it is what it is, and gives a safe answer of, anybody has to pick someone, whatever.
Yeah.
And then you get to Anthony, and Anthony just says, no, there's two pairs in this game. You have Greg and Shea clearly aligned. You've got Brittley and Morgan, clearly the second pair. That leaves Jackie on the outs. And Lauren, I gotta give you credit because you dug a little bit on this one. You didn't let him off the hook because he mentioned someone's on the bottom and someone's going to get screwed. And you said something like, well, who is it? And then Anthony goes off and just says, here's all the people working together, and Jackie, is on the bottom. And like I said, if Jackie was 50-50 on making some sort of move, when you hear everybody admitting it, and even the people who want to work with you saying your name, pretty much saying, I want to work with you, and I'll say it in front of everybody, that might have been enough to push Jackie over the edge of trying to get creative here.
Thing is, Jackie wasn't on the bottom of Passia at all. Like, Morgan was like, Brittley was kind of her fourth person she was aligned with. I think Greg was probably her last, but like, Morgan was so in with Jackie. Shea was in with Jackie. Like, it was kind of like the three of them were the main people in Passia, but
perception
somehow,
though, right?
Yeah, somehow it got flipped, where it seemed they made Jackie feel like she was on the bottom or something.
Yeah.
Where she was like, I gotta make a move, get these people out.
Yeah, and this is part of it, where there's so many variables that go into this, where clearly Anthony and Serena are doing a good job at working Jackie. Because it's not easy to go to someone who has the numbers and convince them to vote with you. It goes wrong, outs them a little bit, and still go back at them and convince them again to vote with you. And try to get something creative going on.
And then be one to the three.
Exactly. And try to make that work. And having Serena and Jackie in a room together and during the prep, maybe that, like, all these things add up. And then, even though she's not on the bottom, it sure looks like she is, because everybody's pretty much not saying her name. And, Morgan, I haven't seen Morgan tell Jackie to her face that she wants her as a final two. I've seen it in confessionals where Morgan mentions it. I can't remember. Maybe I'm wrong, but I can't remember them actually saying to each other, you and me to the end, final two, that's it.
I don't think there was ever a confirmed final two, but the thing that we really need to dive deep in with this is, you're saying if someone at tribal council is able to lay the groundwork and pitch that these people are specifically pairs with each other, even if you know that you feel good with the alliances that you have and you could potentially think you're on the top, that makes you think to yourself, am I really in that good of a position? Because if they're able to pinpoint that, you second guess yourself. And that's then when you say, you know what, maybe I actually am on the bottom and I haven't realized it. And now I need to make a move for myself.
Yeah, exactly. And you see, Shea, I think, does the opposite of everything you're just saying at this tribal. Shea is safe because he has immunity. But when the question comes around to Shea at tribal, he says something along the lines of, you're like, what's your strategy moving forward in the game of who to work with or how you vote or whatever? And he says something like, I don't have a strategy. Like, I'm just having fun. And I'm like, dude, like, everybody knows you have some sort of plan. Okay. So that's not comforting anybody, right? He could have had that opportunity right there because he's safe. He could have had the opportunity to say, I don't like the way Jackie's being singled out here. She knows that her and I are close. Like, even if he puts a target on his back, reel that fifth number back in. You need that number right now. What are you doing? Right.
Yep.
And he's resigned to saying, I don't have a strategy. And, he hasn't played the game to make that believable at this point. He's played a pretty strong game. So it's kind of hard to believe that. And Morgan gets pissed because, you can see on her face when Anthony is going off on having the pairs and someone's on the bottom and Jackie's on the bottom, and Morgan knows she wants to work with Jackie, and she's just getting more and more frustrated. And then Lauren, you say, like, you're making a reaction there to what Anthony's saying. What do you have to say? And she's like, that's not how it goes. And then Anthony says, well, yeah, there's 5 of you. Someone has to be on the bottom, and that's a fact. And then Morgan goes, well, yeah, but it's just not the way you say it is. And he's like, fair. But like, once again, you're talking about someone being on the bottom. Even if you're saying it's not true, you're talking about it. And Jackie's listening, right? And maybe she already had her mind made up, but all of these things didn't hurt that decision, right? So, we kind of beat around the bush a little bit here, but we get into the vote and we see that Jackie gets creative and she calls it, okay? I'm sick of people making moves in games, and then when it's over, being like, oh, I did this because of this. Yeah, but how do we know, right? How do you know? Well, Jackie, as she's casting the vote, says, I'm casting this vote for Serena. I don't want her to go. I want to tie it. I want it to go to the wheel, and here's why. Like, I want to work with this person. And that's legit. That's somebody playing a very, very strategic game. I wanted to see this in the previous episode. I wanted to see a tie get engineered there. Jackie makes it happen in this episode, and it goes to a wheel. And she has a 75% chance of being safe, but only a 50% chance of someone from her previous tribe going home. So
can we talk about this before the wheel gets spun?
Yeah,
because
sure.
There's various opinions that people have if you taking that risk to put yourself to the wheel. In your opinion, Robbie, is that a good decision to make, to risk it that much?
I think I'm a numbers person. If it was for $1 million, no. Sorry, Anthony, or whoever has 3 already, you're going home. I want to wake up on the beach the next day and have a chance to fight for myself.
Right.
I don't care. In a game like this, where it's not for $1 million, but it is for bragging rights, I think with the math right here, it makes sense. It's a 1 in 4 chance that she's going home, Jackie herself. But the difference here, we saw something similar in the previous season, but people's alliance members were on the wheel. Here, Jackie's move saves both of the people she wants to work with in Anthony and Serena, takes them off the wheel. She's the only one of those 3 that is at risk. And it's kind of like the numbers aren't just good with a percentage, but it's also who's there. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I can't blame the move. I think in this type of game, I can't, it's easy for me to say, I would do the same thing. It's hard to put your own name on a wheel though.
Yeah. That's kind of my thing, where it's like, you're good with these people and you're good with the other side too. So why put your name to the wheel? Like, I get that you wanted to work with Anthony and Serena, but
I think
that risk of going home, and then also the risk of Kyle going home, where that if he goes home, then you're at 3 and you're definitely on the outs and going next.
Yeah, you're 4-3, but on the wrong side now.
Yep.
Right. And now to be fair, maybe Jackie is skilled enough that even if it had failed, that she could have gone back and said, Greg came to me again, guys. Like, this is on Greg, or just throwing some lie out there, spin a yarn and play the game. Right. Maybe she had confidence that even if it went wrong, as long as she didn't go home, that, it was safe. But it's interesting too, because Jackie's now gone 2 episodes, right? 2 tribals, trying to get people to work with her from that group, and them saying, no, just vote where we tell you. Not in those words, but really, like, that's kind of how it went. Right.
Yeah.
And, you wouldn't feel the greatest if you're like, hey guys, let's vote this person, or let's vote Kyle, or let's vote whatever. No, the vote's Anthony. No, the vote's Serena. Now I'm going to tell you last minute, vote Serena. You have to listen because you're in my tribe. Like, well, you know what? Maybe I'll take a little bit of power back
Yep.
And I loved watching it. I thought it was hilarious. I was like, no way. And only because she called it. Like I said, if anybody can do moves, but if you don't call it, it's so reduced when it comes to the credit you get. But yeah, it was a plan, and it worked for Jackie. The wheel got really lucky for her and the folks that she wants to work with. And unfortunately, Brittley takes the hit on the wheel.
But she goes out very classy. Brittley was a delight on the season. I think we could have gotten some interesting moments from her, and it would have been interesting to see if she hadn't been the person that the wheel landed on, what could have happened with her game. Because I think she was just starting to get rolling.
Exactly.
Yep.
And Jeremy predicted in our cast assessment that Brittley's not getting normally voted out. Something's gonna happen where Brittley will like go out Cerie style, where it's just like get screwed over. So he made an accurate prediction. She went out by the wheel. She's one of 3 people in our org community that went out by Rox, Corey, and Nick being the first 2. So
in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
3 rock shots.
But this is your guys' new rule. One tie, right to the wheel. And it got used the way that I hoped it would on episode 1 when I heard you guys said that. I was like, man, someday someone's going to have the numbers to force the tie on purpose. And here it was. But yeah, unfortunately for Brittley, didn't work.
Nope.
Didn't work out.
Well, we'll be talking with her just a moment.
So now we are joined by the next casualty that we had in this game, Brittley. You went out so terribly wrong with the rock situation. It should never have happened, but it did. And we're going to hear everything you have to say regarding that. But we are joined tonight by a special guest that recruited you to play this season. Mr. Jeremy Urban is here to break it down with us, along with my co-host, McKenna Feeney, and the person that's been doing the exits with us all along, Dennie. But Brittley, how are you feeling?
Oh my goodness. It was fun watching it back because I was going, oh, I missed so much, but definitely the title of the episode was appropriate because I definitely looked like I was lost in the sauce at the end there, just going through my head like, what happened? What went wrong?
And the title came from you talking about Jackie last vote, how she was lost in the sauce.
And
Which
then
I loved. I use that expression all the time. So I love hearing it from someone else.
Yes.
Yeah, right when we heard you speak that, I looked at McKenna, I was like, yes, episode title right there.
So, Brittley, I, as you know, was an instant fan of yours. I even texted Jeremy. I was like, I love her.
Oh, thank you.
So I don't say that about everyone either. What I want to know is right off the bat, we heard Shawn say that he didn't necessarily believe that you were a newbie to this. So were you a newbie? If not, how many games had you played before?
Well, I am a newbie.
You were here. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Bye. No, definitely first time ever in an org, and I jumping into a mini first time, and I was told that expect gameplay immediately, and I was kind of like, okay, sure. And then as soon as the game started, I was going, whoa, okay, there's a lot going on here.
And were they honest with you about how many hours that it would take? I know you have a daughter at home, so.
Yeah, they totally were honest. Funny thing was, and I told my husband how awesome he was for this, but he had been gone for about a month because he's military, and he got back the night before, and I was going, welcome back, I love you, you gotta watch the kid tomorrow. So he was awesome taking that on for me so I could do this, and it was a long day. I don't think we went to bed till after midnight, at least our time.
It was later than that because we did a debrief session after the game, so it was later than that.
It's at least probably 1:00.
Yeah, for sure. But Jeremy, I know Jeremy has a couple things for you because he's your buddy, brought you into this game.
Yeah. First off, like I'm like so proud of like how you played. One thing, like it was like hard to like be on production and watch because I think it was like in like episode 2 or 3, like you were kind of like on the block to like go home, and like all I want to do is be like, Brittley, do something.
And
but you're able to make it through it.
yeah, speaking of that, we heard as the episode was breaking down some of the recaps and exit interviews, you did a really great job maneuvering through that and keeping a calm head and not being like, this person's throwing my name out, like what are we gonna do? Like you kind of were like, all right, information downloaded, and then like approached people. So talk us through like that process of you being on the chopping block.
Well, I knew I was in trouble with how the challenge went. I figured I wasn't going to be a superstar at it, but I didn't think I was going to fail that hard. And I was going, okay, well, we're at Tribal second time in a row, and we still hadn't made those bonds yet. And so I sat there and I started running through my head of how am I going to get ahead of this? Because I completely held us up. That's on me. And when Shawn took me aside and we started talking, and I knew he was wanting to start the negotiations. And so when I threw Jackie's name out there, it was just to kind of like throw chum in the water to see if he would give me anything. And as soon as he said, hey, they're saying your name, and you should like try to fight to stay in because I don't quite want to see you go, kind of thing, I thought, okay, I'm gonna grab this opportunity and just see where things are going. And then when his computer stuff started happening, I thought, oh wow, I feel like this is just a golden opportunity I need to grab onto. So I just kind of kept, just putting the name out there like Shawn, and really playing up the fact that I'm a team player. I can be a number, which is true. I felt like I repaid that back come merge with the Tribe Strong. So, but I thought it was funny. Shawn's exit interview, and he's like, oh yeah, she'd be an easy number later on. And I was going, not
for you, but yeah, sure.
Sure.
So who from your tribe were you like instantly feeling like you could trust, if anyone? And on the flip of that, who did you immediately feel like you couldn't trust?
I definitely felt like I could trust Morgan. And I even felt pretty, I thought I was closer than I was, I guess, with Shea, and which I still enjoyed working with him. And so I thought like Shea and Morgan were the two players that I could trust the most in our tribe. And the player that definitely was giving me chaotic vibes was Greg. So,
wonder why. So did you have a number one? Did you want to go to the end with someone in particular?
I would have loved to have gone to the end with Morgan. Now, knowing what I know now, I'm just like, oh my goodness, she was she was a more dangerous player than I realized. But I definitely liked working with her, and I think I would have especially with like my loyalties, I was more loyal to her and Shea out of everyone else in the tribe. So
cool. So McKenna touched on this already, just how like chill you were, but I literally have in my notes, cool as a cucumber, because Nikki throws, like, she not only throws your name out, she says to you, calls you out and says, I know you're in an alliance with Shea. So, and you were so cool about it. I think I probably would have like flipped out. So is that how you typically are? Just kind of cool and just roll with the punches? And how did you keep that level of coolness like in this game?
Well, I would definitely have to credit that with my music training. Both Jeremy and I, professional musicians, and when you're having to get out on stage in front of a ton of people and playing a solo and things like that, you kind of have to keep your head about you. So I definitely have to credit that for being able to take the pressure and some of the stress and being able to input output a little more. Okay, let's do this. So but for sure when Nikki came up and was like, oh, I knew you two were an alliance, the alarm bells were going like back here. And I'm sure if you go back and rewatch, it was fun me rewatching it. You could kind of see a little bit boop, like a little blip of panic on my face, and I just kind of was like, oh yeah. And
The production kind of left the room without telling
yeah, like so, and which that was like the first thing that popped up, and I was going, okay, like, which was semi-true. But I played it off as we just sat there like good little children and we didn't say anything to each other. Like,
Did she also mention to you, Nikki, that she thought Eli had the idol?
Well, Eli was already gone at this point, so she moved on from Eli has the idol to
we don't know.
Brittley are an alliance.
So, who was actually no? What was your favorite moment in the game? Just your favorite moment in the game?
Man, that's tough. Probably my favorite moment was being successful on the second tribal, because even though I felt pretty good with the connections that I had made and that it was possible Shawn was going, you just never know with tribals. And so my anxiety level was like up to here, but I'm just sitting here just kind of like, okay, yeah. And then once all the names were read, or the slips, whatever the names are on my brain went blank. I finally was able to just go and relax, and then we won the next two after that, and so I felt like we were coasting. And then probably second favorite, yeah, I think second favorite was when we actually made it to the merge, because that was just my goal. I was like, hey, first time playing, just let's just make it to merge. And then once we made it there, I was kind of going, okay, where do we go from here?
So since Dennie asked you a favorite question, I'll ask you a favorite question too. You experienced a fair amount of challenges. So what one did you like participating in the most, whether it be a tribe or individual immunity? What was kind of like your favorite to do?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, the challenges were fun. They were intense, but they were fun. But I think probably my favorite challenge is, getting a read on people and trying to make those connections and seeing where people are. And I wish I actually did more on that. I think the scramble rooms got me a little nervous on, well, do I leave in one-on-one with this person? Do I try to talk to people on the other side? And so that definitely, going forward, I would love to be able to hone in on that a little bit better. So maybe see if I don't get rocked out next time.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd actually like to go to one of the earlier individual immunity challenges, because the plate holding one with the balls, you were doing really well in that challenge until we went to standing on one foot.
Yeah.
So do you think that if you would have been able to make that transition a little bit better, could you have like held in there with the guys and possibly took home that win?
I think so. For some reason, I decided to go on my left leg, and I'm sitting there thinking back to it going, I balanced so much better on my right leg. What was I thinking? And I don't know if I just thought because the plate was in my left hand that it would just make everything linear. It would make it easier. But yeah, I think that was my challenge to win. And then I went on my left leg.
Understandable.
Who knows how many hours you'd been going at it by this point.
Yes. Yeah, I think the episode I got out on, we were on hour 8 or 9 by that point. So I was just going, man, I looked at the time when I got into Ponderosa and I was going, what? Like
Yeah. It was a haul. I mean, you even hear people in some of these games, they don't even have time to go even get anything to eat because there's no time at all.
No.
And the first individual immunity challenge, we had you guys doing a plank, and then about 30 seconds in, after Shea drops, we're like, anybody want an advantage? Drop now. And you were one of the people to drop. Were you having, we saw you in, I think, either this last episode or your episode being like, yeah, I have no idea what the heck this clue is. Did you share it with anybody or talk about it, like any of that?
So I tried to keep as many cards of mine close, but I wanted to share a little bit to try to keep building that trust with Shea. And so I had just shared that, yeah, I've been working on the clue, but I didn't share what was in the clue. So I don't think it would have been beneficial to share it with anyone still, because the possibility of someone maybe guessing it and then just being untruthful with me, being like, yeah, I have no clue either, and and they knew. So but to be fair, there was so much going on that there was moments where I'd even forgotten, like I put that clue on like the back burner for a second, and then I was like, oh yeah, I gotta solve this thing.
Yeah.
Jeremy?
All right. So kind of like moving into your episode now, we see that for the majority of the episode, it's all talk if it's going to be Anthony or Kyle. And then right at the last second, Greg pops in a room with all of you guys and just be like, it's Serena. And that's where like all hell broke loose. And so what were you guys like kind of thinking like in that moment? And like, how did that like disrupt like your thought process going directly into tribal?
And it was about like 3 minutes before tribal, something like that. Like they barely had any time, and Greg was like, so Serena, I got the votes.
Yeah.
So it was funny because it even showed in my confessional that I'm like, okay, we're at that point of the game where we kind of think about ourselves and, maybe have to kind of snip ties. And so at the time I was thinking about who I would turn on first, and Greg had been at like the top of my list for a while, and
well, he voted for you.
So. Yeah, and so then when he and Shea won individual immunity, I kind of was like, crap, I didn't have a plan B going into this, so I just figured with how it was, the plan was Anthony. And so it was like, me, Shea, Morgan, and Jackie, and even Greg was in that room before he got pulled for a confessional, and I hadn't seen Greg since then. So the rest of us, we were like, okay, so, Anthony, he's won immunity at the last challenge. He's going to be a bigger threat later on down the as we get closer to the end. So let's go ahead and take him out. And so I decided that, okay, I guess we'll go tribe strong one more time, and then I'll try to do something to try to get Greg out. And yeah, like 3 seconds before we go to tribal, Greg pops in. He's like, yeah, so it's a Serena, right? And I'm sitting there going, what? Like, and so he leaves, and I, like, Morgan and Jackie and me, we're all kind of like looking at each other. And that's when I said, I'm like, look, we kept saying Anthony, I'm going with Anthony. And Greg had said that, yeah, I talked to Shea, and Shea's on board with Serena. And I knew that was a lie, because I was going, no, we've been talking to Shea this whole time, and it's been Anthony's. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I guess the miscommunication and everything, it was just like a big old like in the middle of everything. And then when it became a tie vote, I was like, oh no. And so I had a bad feeling during tribal, I was going, oh, I'm gonna get rocked, and sure enough, it landed on me, and I was going, so.
What hurt most in that moment, though? You getting rocked out, or when it happens where on the screen, I hate this, but it's just like, it's somewhat comical to laugh at. It's like a party when the wheel lands on you.
Yeah, there's confetti. It's like, you just lost the game. Congrats.
It's like, you won, but the wheel landed on you, but you're rocked out.
Well, yeah, it just stinks that it happened that way, where only 4 names were on the wheel.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my questions for you, was did you have a gut feeling that it was going to land on you?
I did, once I saw all the names that, weren't going to be on there. And I had this dread just came over me, and I was going, oh man, looking at the odds on that wheel. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
It's been a good run.
Yeah, I think I went tribe strong too long. One tribal too long.
Well, we heard Nikki propose the All Girls Alliance, and you were a big hell no to that one. So you had the opportunity to not go with rocks.
That I will have to say that the Nikki vote is the one that I regret, because I think I was so focused when she came out with the whole, oh, you and Sharon an alliance together. I should have just trusted my story more with her and just been kind of like, we'll come back to that later. And maybe, especially with the scare on the other side of, like, we had more numbers, being able to pull in the numbers that I needed to get rid of Greg. And then maybe
the numbers with the girls too, because you had 3 girls to 2 girls.
Yeah. And so, because I know we were talking about getting rid of oh my gosh, like Dylan. And so I know with the girls, it was like this kind of like this agreement that, okay, we'll take out one of ours as long as we get to take out one of yours next. And so I wish I would have taken that opportunity to maybe even kind of get with Nikki and Serena on the side and be like, hey, let's like make a move, maybe like a blind side that no one's going to see coming, and try to get rid of Greg. So that is the one vote that I regret, because looking back, I'm going, oh, that was a tribal. I should have got rid of him.
Yeah.
It's one of those things you'll always wonder now.
Right.
You'll play it over and over again.
We have a question from Ian, one of our production members. He posted on Facebook. Brittley, you were targeted early on, but were able to get past that into the merge. How far do you feel you would have went if you had not gone out on rocks? Because we kind of saw in some of their confessionals that some people were more loyal to others within your tribe than to you. So how far do you think you could have pushed past to go past your rock out?
That's a really good question. I think with where my standing was, unfortunately, because of Greg getting that immunity challenge, I think I might have lasted one more tribal. Because thinking back, I think I missed my opportunity of when I should have started flipping. So I probably would have made it one more, but I don't think with my current gameplay, how it was going, that I would have made it all the way to the end. And which, I mean, especially, up against some of these other players, like looking back to see what they were doing, I was like, wow, like that's really
pin them against each other, girl.
That's the thing. I'm a fast learner, though, so I'm excited to.
You're great.
Yeah.
Great. So describe your game in one word.
Ooh, I would say that it was calm. I did a lot of watching and seeing what was going on. Obviously missed some things, but I think I did a lot of learning with my first one, and so I'm excited to see how I can change and mold my gameplay going forward.
What I really liked about your game is you and Serena were sort of playing that similar game where you're like sitting, watching, and responding.
Yeah.
But you were a bit more active and had a little bit more influence more than Serena, who, like, we've heard Robbie analyze this a little bit, saying she just poses, oh, well, what are the breakdown of the numbers? And you're like, you're more of the, oh, we have 5 girls, kind of like you're more vocal about some things. So I feel like you've got a good head for the game because you do have that calm side, but you're able to push votes and stuff like that, like we saw with your almost vote out in episode 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially with the Girls Alliance, I thought that would be bringing that to Shea. And even with Greg in the room, I thought, okay, like, I'll kind of let Greg in on it too. Mm-hmm. I thought that would get me an even better standing with either one of them. And I knew I was going to be in trouble down the road with how that conversation went. And I was kind of like, so it's not a big deal that a bunch of girls were getting together? Okay.
Yeah, I had in my notes too just how calm you were the whole time, but also very bubbly, and like people wanted to talk to you. I wanted to watch you because of how bubbly you were and just your expressions. And yeah, you're so great. But I could tell that the wheels were always spinning at the same time. So you were able to have those conversations and the wheels were spinning. Mm-hmm. Like when I played a mini, I was just quiet and just sat there and watched everyone. Didn't talk a whole lot. Yeah. But you had both parts. So it was really fun to watch you.
Well, thank you.
I can't wait to watch you again. I really hope you come back. I would love to see you in a long game. I know it's a huge time commitment, but
I would love to do a long game now that I've had a taste.
For sure. Jeremy, Dennie, anything else?
I just want to say I loved watching you play. You're one of my best friends, so getting to see you play one of these things was awesome. And I was right when I told production that you were not going to go out in just a simple vote out. I knew you were going to go out, if you did, in some weird advantage Armageddon thing. And so you going out with a rock draw was exactly like how I had pictured it if you were going to go out. But I definitely I want to see you play again.
Yes.
Well,
it would be awesome.
Brittley, you make our third casualty to the rock draw in our minis. So Lauren,
which is a lot. Yeah, that is a lot for
2 seasons.
For 2 seasons,
3 people going home by rocks, but okay.
So far. So you never know. But yeah, Brittley, you have been a delight. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to hear you break down your game. You played amazing, and we look forward to seeing you again on a future season. But with that being said, thanks so much, everyone. Jeremy, thanks for joining us, being that special guest here for your buddy, and we'll see you guys later. Take it easy.